When optical devices were made for research, they changed the course of human history. It has been 410 years since Galileo Galilei pointed his 3-power spyglass at the moon. Just 29 years have passed since Hubble, the first satellite observatory, was launched. Today, the distance from the edge is 14 billion parsecs. This could be called the beginning or the end of our exploration. The next stage will be announced by interplanetary space probes. They are most well known for their achievements with New Horizons or Voyagers. However, spacecraft of this type are not without their veterans. The Cassini Interplanetary Orbiter is one such spacecraft. It began its mission in 1997, and it completed it just recently. What did this spacecraft find? And what observations did it make during its historic mission, which lasted 20 years? Cassini originally meant exploring Saturn and its satellites as well as delivering the Huygens lander to Titan. NASA, ESA, and other organizations helped to make the Cassini project possible. The project was completed by 260 scientists from 17 different countries. The European Space Agency designed the Huygens lander, while Lockheed Martin engineers created the systems section. The flight was conducted by one of NASA's divisions. The spacecraft's initial weight was 5 tons 719 kilograms, its height was 6.9 meters, and its width was 4. The impressive spacecraft's weight was also due to its 320-kilo probe and 336-kilo scientific instrument. Cassini was powered using radioisotope radioelectric generators that used radioactive plutonium-238 fuel. There were 12 scientific instruments aboard the spacecraft, including a mass spectrometer and an ultraviolet radar. The launch of the spacecraft occurred on October 15, 1997, from Cape Canaveral. The spacecraft was initially flown in the opposite directions to Saturn, passing Venus twice. This was done to achieve the desired speed. Cassini then flew by Earth at 69,000 kilometers per hour, which was in August 1999. It took the opportunity to check its cameras and capture a magnificent picture of our satellite. It was now awaiting Jupiter, the largest planet of the solar system, to pass by it on December 30, 2000. Cassini took a lot of photos of this planet as well as some of its satellites. These images provided significant scientific data, including Jupiter's atmospheric circulation. On the 30th of June, 2004, the spacecraft passed Saturn, becoming the planet's first artificially created satellite. It was moving at a speed of 15 kilometers per second and was currently coasting. The Cassini spacecraft's Huygens probe was meant to follow it. Huygens, which had been detached from Cassini's spacecraft on the 25th of December, 2004, set off to make its way to Titan. The probe reached the atmosphere of this mysterious satellite's atmosphere on the 14th of February, 2005. It reached the surface about 2.5 hours after it had entered. Cassini received messages from the probe on Titan's surface over the next 72 minutes and sent back 350 images to Earth. It was discovered that Titan contained not only hydrocarbon pebbles and methane lakes. Cassini began further explorations of the satellite. Over the course of 13 years, it flew past Saturn's largest satellite nearly 100 times. It made many discoveries. The most remarkable was the discovery that Titan's islands submerged and then re-emerged. This phenomenon's mechanism is yet to be discovered. Cassini was in operation at the time that 7 new Saturn satellites were discovered by astronomers on Earth. The images from the spacecraft provided the initial discoveries. Saturn's 3 new moons were named Pallene and Polydeuces. Cassini remained in Saturn's orbit while satellites were discovered later. They were named Daphnis and Anthe, Aegean, and S/2009 S1, which have yet to be named. This satellite is the closest to Saturn. 2 remarkable phenomena could be mentioned as 2 of Cassini's most important discoveries. These are aurorae within Saturn's atmosphere as well as a hexagonal jet stream with an inside red hurricane. Cassini found this mysterious hexagon shortly after. Astronomers soon discovered another unaccountable characteristic of the vortex. As the years passed, the vortex began to change its color. This hurricane covers 50 times the area of an average hurricane. Saturn's rings were next on the agenda. Cassini discovered some of them, including the Pallene and Ant rings. Cassini saw the rings closely and revealed many details. One example is how Daphnis and other Shepherd satellites kept an eye on the rings, as well as how an ice band was building up around them. Cassini also helped to discover that Enceladus has a water ocean, much like Jupiter's satellites. This ocean may have the right chemistry for supporting life. The ocean on Enceladus can be explored, and it is not like Europa or Ganymede. Cassini flew through its geysers many times. Data received from the mission will soon be used to build devices for Europa Clipper, a new mission to Saturn. Cassini spent 13 years in Saturn orbit. It received 635 gigabytes of data and nearly 1,000 photos. Only 18 of Saturn's satellites had been discovered by scientists before the spacecraft was launched. 13 additional satellites were discovered during Cassini's 7-year journey to Saturn. 22 additional satellites were discovered by Cassini during its operation. 7 of these were directly due to Cassini recently discovered. Saturn is now the solar system's most valuable planet in terms of satellites. Cassini found yet another amazing phenomenon near the end of its mission, a space between Saturn and its rings. The spacecraft was positioned between Saturn's rings, and instead of the expected dust vortices, it found an entirely empty space. Cassini's fate was sealed in May 2017. Because of the shortage of fuel, it was impossible to continue operating the spacecraft in orbit. Management considered 19 options when deciding the fate of this probe. One of these options was steering the probe to orbit around Saturn's satellites or the Sun. It was ultimately decided that Cassini would be allowed to burn up in the atmosphere of the gas giant. This was done to prevent possible biological contamination by Saturn's satellites. Cassini was able to maneuver around Titan, finding itself between Saturn's closest ring and Saturn on the 22nd of April, 2017. The spacecraft took pictures until the end. This is the last photo it transmitted to Earth. After entering the planet's atmosphere, the spacecraft pointed its aerials towards the Earth and began transmitting information about the chemistry in the Saturnian atmosphere. The spacecraft was quickly engulfed in Saturnian atmospheric thickets shortly after losing contact with the orbiter. The Cassini mission proved to be just as useful as the missions to Mars. The spacecraft provided scientists with unique images on a monthly basis, which allowed them to keep up to date. These images helped many aspiring astronomers build their careers. The mission's success was beyond our expectations. We can now talk about finding life on Saturnian satellites. These discoveries may be revealed soon, and it will become clear who is to credit.